My name is Ameer Vann. I grew up on the south side of Houston, Texas. I spent my whole life in Houston, Texas, and I went to a bunch of different schools, but I mostly went to private schools, like all the way up until I went to high school, where I met Ian Simpson, Kevin Abstract. I mostly went to all white, upper class schools. My mom was a hairdresser and my dad was a truck driver, and they pooled money together to make sure I went to private school. So I got a private education for the majority of my life. And then the high school I went to, the Woodlands High School, was one of the top scoring schools in the country. I was a high school wrestler, but I played football as well, and I've done martial arts since I was 7. The neighborhood I grew up in Houston, Texas, is really rough. And both my mom and dad had seen a lot, so it was in their best interest to make sure that I was enriched as much as possible. And that's what my childhood was. I grew up going camping and riding horses, doing martial arts and doing sports, and I spent every summer at math and science camp and shit like that. So my parents made sure, or my mom made sure that I had like a really tight and enriched upbringing as a young child. And I moved out at about 17 years old, but between that, I was really into cars, motorcycles. I was really into like cartoons. I watched a lot of movies. That's how Kevin and I got really, really close. And my dad had thousands of movies. He had a crazy fucking movie collection. And we lived in the same apartment building at that time.
So reversing all that, how did you get first meet Kevin in school?
Yeah, I met him in school. I met him in a class in 10th grade.
Was that your introduction to the first?
No, we rode the same bus. We met in freshman year of high school, and we rode the same bus. So like our apartment was like in a town called Conroe, about 15 minutes outside of the Woodlands, where our high school was, a really affluent suburb. So we lived just outside of town. So all the kids who were like middle class or lower middle class income usually rode that bus route. So that's how we met the very first time. But we didn't get to be friends until like the 10th grade, probably.
And was that your introduction into music?
Yeah, I played in like band in school. So I played the drums. Yeah, I was a percussionist growing up. But by the time I got into high school, I was just playing sports. So like I wasn't even thinking about music. I was actually doing ceramics in high school, like art and sculpting in school. They had it as an elective. So I wanted to do 3D modeling for cars. So like for any car that's on the production line, at some point it had to be molded with clay for people to see the physical idea of what the design is going to be. And that's what I wanted to do. But then I met Ian, and Kevin, and he was recording all the time. And I just somehow started making music.
Are we a boy band? I'm so glad boy band. That's so tight.
You're so late. We've been saying we're a boy band.
I'm Ameer. I rap.
I'm Rex. I produce.
I'm Kevin.
I'm William. I rap.
Matt Champion, rap and scout models.
I'm also called Merlin.
We did like everything on the internet, so now we're gonna live together, and we'll just be dancing in the house and watching NSYNC videos and stuff like that. And we're all gonna dye our hair, everybody.
Woo, everybody.
And we're gonna take dancing classes. We just want to tour and put out videos.
It just kind of happened, and it was when I started making it, we were like, "Yo, this is good. There's potential in it," and I was like, it felt good to make music, so I kept making music.
When you first started with them, do you remember what your first resources were?
Yeah, a Mac laptop, like a Blue audio mic, like the one you had over there, and I think that was it. I think we were using like Audacity until we met someone who knew how to use Pro Tools, a kid named Raleigh. I hope I'm not getting those borders confused. And of course, Kevin has a whole different story because he was making music before me. So at the time we had met, he was recording with someone named Raleigh, a friend of ours from high school. He was a couple grades ahead of us.
was there a specific like movie in that Rolodex that you had at the crib that like you guys bonded over at first?
I can't. But when I say my dad had a collection of like hundreds of movies, I literally mean hundreds. Like everything from The Green Mile to like Spirit, the animated movie about a fucking horse cereal. Like, and I like really watched a lot of movies. Like when I think about it, or when I'm sitting at home or talking to people about movies, it's like I realize I haven't seen a lot of stuff. And Kevin has too. Like, the last time I went to his house, it's like his whole library, like next to the TV, is like filled with DVDs. So like that's, and also we used to take a duffel bag full of DVDs on the Brockhampton tours, like full, like a duffel bag full of DVDs. Walking. So I've seen a lot of movies, a lot. It would be hard to say what the first one was to watch. Maybe Life with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, or maybe.
That movie's looking so sad.
It is. It's extremely sad. I always joke. I'm like, that's the. If you don't think about it, people are like saying that's a happy ending. I'm like, no, that's a happy ending for a black movie. Like they still spent 40 years in prison, and all they got at the end was like nosebleed seats at a Yankee game. Like that was the ending. And I think about that. It's brutal, but it's a great movie. It's still a great movie. One of my favorites. For a black movie, though, that's our happy ending. That's what we get. You get 40 years in prison, and you get a nosebleed in the Yankees game. Nosebleed seats in the Yankees game. That's what you get.
That's fine. So that, I'm sure it has, but has that like made its way into your music anywhere and did it early on? Like
TV and film?
Movies, yeah.
Probably into the music in some ways, as far as themes or maybe quotes. But the music videos and like all the things that you've seen from myself or from Brockhampton, like, are very, very much influenced by what we were seeing in TV and film. Like, that was usually the plan or the goal for making something. It's like, how do we imitate something that we like from TV and film? Whether it be the movie Mean Girls, or whether it be Shawshank Redemption, whatever it is, or whether it be, Kill Bill, or whatever Quentin Tarantino movie, whatever, just trying to recreate that. And that's when I've made anything that I really like, or what I feel like is my best, is when I'm trying to pull from something that I liked when I was a kid, or I'm trying to create with childlike limitations. Like when you were a kid, you didn't care what it is you were making, and therefore what you made was great because you liked it, and that was like your purest form of creativity. So I try to tap into that as much as I can. I try to remember the first time I watched Step Brothers or Talladega Nights.
Paul was a man. He had a beard.
Look, I like the baby version the best. Do you hear me? I win the races and I get the money.
Ricky, finish the damn grace.
I like to picture Jesus in a tuxedo t-shirt.
Anything from, we're all about the same age here, like, what it was like in 2003 when you saw Click for the first time. Or if you had a PSP and you popped in those UMD discs and watched the movies on that shit. That's when I felt really fucking good, right? And like, you don't have to make a carbon copy of something that happened 20 years ago in order to make something good. You just need to recreate a feeling, an emotion, right? Like that feeling of nostalgia and like a home. You can make that in your records, you can make that in whatever it is you're making, you can like infuse that in it. And that's like a skill that I had to learn and hone over many years of making music. I started making music, I think we were 14 or 15 when we started, or when I started making music with Kevin.
Because I was about to ask, so you said when you first started it was easy and it felt simple, and you also touched on earlier before we started rolling that things you gravitate toward the stuff that's like simple and easy. So how long did it take you to learn it, or was it just right away you realized, okay, I need to do things that feel simple?
When I learned that you had to do things in a simple way is when we did the hook for Gold. Okay. Right? We were at the house and we had all the verses were written. I think Romeo had made the beat, and then I was in the room for the first one to write a verse to it, at least as far as I remember. And we were getting to the hook portion, and Ian did Kevin did the hook, and like, keep a gold chain on my neck, fly legit, oh, better treat me with respect. And I was like, yo, that's dope, but you should change the fly of the jet part, like that sounds corny. And he was like, nah, bro, that's gonna work. Like, people are gonna love that. And when we released the album, that was like our #1 streaming song. And I realized then, one, I'm terrible at writing hooks. I don't hear hooks. And two, keeping things simple is the best way to go. Because I always tell people, like, you're gonna be the only motherfucker overthinking your shit. You're gonna be the only motherfucker overthinking it. People are gonna listen to it for 5-10 seconds and decide whether they like it or not. Take you to figure out how long you like a song. Probably about 5-10 seconds. There you go. That's everybody, you know?
Yeah.
So you're gonna be the only one overthinking it. So I just go into things now with like, oh, that worked. Oh, okay, that feels good. Oh, okay, cool. Like, me and Hit Boy sat down and in 2 hours we did 7 songs. So we did 8 songs today. I don't even know this guy. I just met him today. Oh, okay, I'll go back. I met IDK. Oh, wow, we redid these records. They feel really good.
Yeah.
I'll go back. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's simple. Don't overthink it. You'll be the only one.
Yeah.
Rewinding just a little bit from your perspective, how did Brockhampton start?
Oh, Brockhampton started off as a group on Facebook called Alive Since Forever. It was a group called ASF. Like, it was mostly based on the internet. And Ian had started it, Kevin had started it years ago. And I wasn't even a part of it. That was like Ian's thing. And I was making music just for fun, and somehow became a part of ASF. I can't even remember. Like, it just happened, right? Then we grow up into where seniors in high school. Ian had moved to Atlanta, or Kevin had moved to Atlanta, and I was still in Texas, and we were doing it over the internet. And the guy who was recording us at the time was Joe Book. We had met Joe Book through Matt Champion, I think. We had all gone to the same high school, from the same small town. So we were recording with him, and he was gonna go to college. He was gonna go to Texas State University. And it was like, well, we should go with him, or we're gonna have to find somebody else to record. So I'm 17 years old, working a job, cooking. I'm working with my dad in the garage downstairs. My dad used to work on his motorcycle and work on other people's motorcycles and stuff like that. So I had a little bit of money. And my mom gave me some money too. I think she might have split it with me. She might have went half with me on my deposit for my apartment in San Marcos, which is where Texas State is. And I just moved out. I just went and I got a job. I was collecting garbage at Texas State University. So I was collecting garbage from people I went to high school with. And I was making music in high school. So that was like very fucking humbling.
Yeah.
Like, it was a valet garbage service. So people have to leave their garbage on the front step and I come get it. So I see people I went to school with all the time. So that was San Marcos. And when we moved to San Marcos, Ian was like, yo, I want to go in a different direction. I want to start a new group, a smaller one. So we did. We transitioned with the people who lived in San Marcos with us. Jabari came from Grenada. Romil was there. Kiko, Don, pretty much everyone. We all lived in San Marcos. And that became Brockhampton, because everyone else, like, lived essentially there. So we were doing shows in Austin and opening up for people. I think we did Mac Miller and maybe Logic or something like that. I can't remember all. This is almost.
Well, that's pretty early on. So how'd that come about?
Yeah.
Kevin Abstract Kim and After had already had like a name, or like already had kind of a buzz, and had connection with promoters and people like that. So he did a lot of the heavy lifting, like a lot of the early on stuff of like grinding and getting your name out there. He did that with all the people in the orchestra kids. So when we got to Austin, we knew people who had did shows, and we knew people who ran this or did that, and we had done South by a couple of times even before we moved out to San Marcos. All just based on Alive Since Forever and the music that we had all released as a collective. To be completely honest with you, I don't know. I am extremely privileged when it comes to where I am in music, because a lot of the heavy lifting and hard work that people have to do. I just met someone and they were like, come with me. And I just kept making music. I just kept making music. That was really it. Like, I just kept making songs. They seemed to work. They seemed to stream well. I'm still doing that now.
Right.
I'm just making songs. I'm just doing what seems cool, you know.
We answered a few of these, but now that you're a teenager living in Texas and you're about to move to LA for the first time, who did you keep in contact with your family? Were you working at the time?
Yeah, I was working at a Nichols Tire and Auto in San Marcos, Texas. They should have fired me a million fucking times over, but they didn't. Taught me a lot about working in a garage. It also exposed me to a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have seen before. They did a lot of race cars. It's a small town, so police cars, fire trucks, semi-trucks, buses, like split ring tires, lifted trucks, suspensions, like motorcycles, diesels. Like, I got a chance to get my hands on everything in a short amount of time, and they were like really good. And so I started off just doing tire and lube, tire changes and oil changes, and then moved up to helping with more repairs. But yeah, they should have fucking fired me. They couldn't work high all the time, and definitely shouldn't have. But they did it for whatever reason, and so when it came time to move to LA, I just told them like, yo, I'm moving to Los Angeles. Like, you know, my family's going out there. I didn't want to be like, I'm a rapper.
Right.
So like, yo,
so my shit, my mom got a job.
Yeah, my family's moving out there. I'm gonna leave. So I left. It was cool. Yeah, that was really it.
Looking back at those years before you were 20, what did you learn most about yourself before like moving to LA and all that?
I didn't learn anything about myself. I was so like high and like depressed and like sad. I had no idea who I was.
Even now, like looking back, what did you learn about yourself?
What do I know about myself now?
Yeah, what did you learn about yourself now from back then?
Oh. I guess that I'm more capable than I thought I was. More capable of change, more capable of growth, more capable of compassion, understanding, finding peace, self-regulating. All those things I didn't think were possible. Like, I thought I was gonna feel terrible for the rest of my life, like most teenagers do.
Yeah.
But like that's part of growing up. And I got a lot of time over the past few years to just kind of figure out who I am and get comfortable with life and its changes and how things ebb and flow. I would definitely say I feel more capable than I did before. I've done a lot in the past few years as far as like growing and trying new things, as far as changing the way that I approach situations, or changing the way that I approach music, or changing the way that I approach myself and how I think. Yeah, surprised myself a lot.
I was gonna say, well, like, so you touched on it, like, you're still learning things and you're kind of just doing the same thing you were doing before. How has it been learning how to, because you didn't really answer about your family, how has it been learning how to stay in touch with people and still chasing, you know what I mean, when you're still in the...
I'm super close to my family. Okay. I talk to my mom every day.
Okay.
I talk to my mom every single day, and my dad too. My biological father passed away a few years ago. And even him, like, we had a pretty solid relationship. My stepdad, I talk to him pretty much every week. Like, we talk all the time. And especially like if he's with my mom, I get wrong. So what I say to that is like, you can do both. Like you can be working and be in touch with your family. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't be able to make music the way that I do if it weren't for my family and like being rooted at home. Because then I will be thinking of myself as like Ameer Vann, a rapper or an artist or whatever. When like I'm just a guy and I make music, like it's really it. It's not, life is not nearly as complicated as we all feel it is, right? And like even myself, I get overwhelmed and I feel like pressure or like I don't feel great all the fucking time. But like most of the time it's because like my thoughts and what I feel like should be happening or what I think should be happening is clouding what I should be proud of and what I should be grateful for. Yeah. And we all do the same thing. Like life is not nearly as complicated as we all make it, but it's easier to say that than it is for it to actually occur.
What made you all make the move to South Central? Why
For South Central? Oh, it was just LA. And South Central was cheap. Like we didn't have any money. We were kids. Like I sold a vintage motorcycle and some parts off a car I got when I was 17. My uncle gave me a Ford Ranchero and it didn't start. So I had to figure out how to get it to run and it was fine. And so we redid the paint on it and the wheels and it had some shit. And so I sold parts off of it and that's how I afforded the money to get to Los Angeles. And like, we knew what South Central was, but it was like, it's cheap. Like, what are you gonna do? So we lived out there. I think it was a 6-bedroom house or something like that. And there was like 14 of us. Like, and a lot of other people staying and sleeping on the floor. Like, so it was pretty much 2 to every room.
So with that said, how fast did you bond with everybody in that house?
Oh, I had already known most of them since I was in high school, through either online or in person. So I grew up with William, I grew up with Merlin, I grew up with Kevin, I grew up with Joba, I grew up with Matt, and I'm trying to remember if there's anybody else. And I think that's it. So we all already knew each other, like since we were teenagers, very young. Matt used to pick me up from detention. He had a car and I didn't. I used to skip school and go to Joba's house for the tour, you know? So we had already known each other, and I had already known Romil because we had done shows before. Like we did a show when we were like 14 in New York. That was my first time ever on a plane. And Romil, I think, lived in Connecticut with Don and John and a few other people. And so that we had already met before. When I was 14 years old. They had come to Corpus Christi before. We had already known each other.
Gotcha. So with that said, what did you learn from having the most functional home studio at that time on the Legend?
What did I learn? Oh, it doesn't matter what your equipment is. If what you're making is good, people will like it. I'm trying to remember what the mic is, but it's like a mic we use for podcasting. You know, little black cans.
Sure.
That's the mic we use to record all the saturation stuff, all of that. Or no, I think that might have been saturation 2 and 3, and maybe Puppy as well. We're all just recorded on that. I mean, Bad was recorded on that same mic. Bad by Michael Jackson was recorded on the same mic. So it doesn't really matter what equipment you have, as long as it sounds clear, looks clear, whatever it is, people like you aren't blurring what you're trying to create. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. We did all of those videos, all of those songs, all of that on like super cheap.
And then you made 3 albums in such a small amount of time, and just like super fastly, all the ideas were all out there. What was the process behind that, and what got y'all out of bed like every day? So like it seemed like y'all were on a mission.
I mean, living in South Central make you hungry, like really hungry. And we didn't have anything. I was a security guard in Koreatown. I didn't have much of anything. And so the process was I would usually get off work, and Romil would be making beats in his room with Ian or with Kevin. And we would usually wait till nighttime because we didn't have AC. It was hot as fuck during the day. So at nighttime it was like easier to record. So Romil would usually make a beat, and either I would lay down a verse and then Kevin would come and put a hook on, or Kevin would already have a hook or a theme for what the record was, and then I would write first verse, or maybe Matt had written a verse that day, or whatever it was, and then we would flesh out the records from there. But the majority of them started out with Romeo beat, or Kevin hook, and a verse from either myself. We do so. That's how the record started, and every single night, I guess me and Kevin and Romeo all have the same malfunction, which is like, when I'm in the studio, I want to make 10 songs, I want to make 20 songs, I want to make as much as we can. And so we would do as many methods and as much as we could to make as many records as we could in the night. So like, if we were struggling with a record, it would be like, Kevin would be like, yo, we're just going to spend 30 more minutes on this song. We'll put a 30-minute timer on it, and once 30 minutes are up, we're just going to move on to the next thing. And or if I was having writer's block, it was like I would feel like I needed to push through, like create a record. I would have to like, because for some reason I just knew in my mind that if making music and creating songs wasn't something that I could do on command, I wasn't at the level that I needed to be at. And so that's what I focused on. It's just like pushing through and like harnessing and paying attention to that feeling that I get inside when I'm making a record or when I'm writing something that I really feel. Knowing what that feeling is and being able to tap into it. And I only got that through practice in Brockhampton. Like we made so many songs that night. I can remember making songs until the sun came up, and we had only made like 8 songs, and I was feeling like
they did the service,
yeah, feeling disappointed that we didn't do enough. We got, once Saturation 1 did well, and it got to Saturation 2, and I didn't need a job anymore, then I felt guilty if I wasn't working. And we were living in this house, and you know, I'm making a little bit of money, but not a crazy amount, and my bills and everything is being covered. So it felt like I felt like I needed to do something. So I didn't go out very much. I like went to go skate, to train, and then I would come back and make music. And that was every single day. I would wake up, smoke, and then go to Romeo's room and just make music. That was it. If I didn't, I felt like uncomfortable. I didn't feel good. And that continued up until the puppy record.
So with the studio etiquette, there's so many different heads in the house and so much different going on. Everyone's working all at once.
It was all streamlined. Once we figured out we were going to be Brockhampton, everything was extremely streamlined. So Romeo was working from home. The other guys had jobs or other things. So like it would be this huge pool of instruments. So like Romeo would constantly have beats that we'd be working with Romeo the most. But then Jabari would come with a pack, or Kiko would have a pack of beats, and we would run through all of that, and we could do the same thing. It was very much a well-oiled machine, which is like we had producers, you feed that to Romeo, who's our recording engineer. I'm always in the room, Kevin is always in the room, so like you got the first verse and a hook, or whatever it is, or the last verse and a hook, or whatever it's going to be. Now those records, here are the records that are going to stick, or here's the records that are done. Pass these off to the other writers, right? While they're writing their verses, we're already making new stuff. All while that's happening, Joe is getting the records last, so he's adding his recordings in, whatever he feels like he needs, his verses, and then he's mixing and mastering the records. Records are done, and it would just keep flowing like that. And it was like we didn't plan that. That's how it happened.
It was supernatural.
It's just how it happened.
And what was like I guess another way of saying, like the studio dynamic, like how were ideas respected?
Everybody just recorded. Just recorded. Like the executive production or getting to pick what came to the final record was really up to Kevin and Romeo, and track listing was kind of bounced off. Or we were, other people could give suggestions, but it really was Kevin and Romeo that were picking what the final thing was going to come out as. And me personally, I can't speak for everybody else, but I never felt like, oh, I'm going to be upset if something doesn't get included. And maybe that's because I'm on a lot of records. Maybe if I wasn't on a lot of records, I'd feel differently. But I always felt like I'm just making stuff. That's always been my mindset. It's like I'm just making stuff and I'm trying to have the best verse on the song. Like, that's it. That was all I was thinking about. And so I didn't really care what made it out and what didn't, as long as I made something good. I didn't really care.
Last question about the Brockhampton house. How bad did the Brockhampton house smell?
Not that bad. Not that bad. It was messy, but the first house was like super messy, mostly, but it wasn't that crazy. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't that crazy. Like most of it smelled like fucking incense and weed, and that was my fault. But by the time we got the second house, we got another house in North Hollywood, a bigger one. By the time we got there, we had a maze, so it was everything was fine. Everything was good.
So on topic with that, when you got signed with RCA, what was the deal with RCA?
Just like any other deal, you get a sum that is the entire fund for your project, right? Your recording budget, your marketing, your everything is in that sum. So when you hear such and such signs for, let's say $1 million, such and such signs for $1 million, out of that contract, a certain amount of money goes to the recording budget, a certain amount of money goes to marketing, a certain amount of money goes to this, a certain amount of money goes to that, and you get an advance out of that $1 million. Typically 25%, 30%, even 50% if you really got the muscle for it. So you get that 300,000, 500,000, 200,000, whatever it is, and upon turning in your record, your next record, your first record, out of however many you promised to them, they'll pay you another lump sum, right? But in return, for us, instead of a 360 deal, which is where record labels make money off of everything you put out, whether it's touring, merchandise, whatever, endorsement deals, whatever, they get a taste of everything. It was just solely for music, and it was a split in our favor. Without telling you too much information or giving you exact numbers, it was a deal that focused just on the music, and it was a split in Brockhampton's favor. So we got more than what the label was getting. So I think the misconception is when people hear such and such signs for $50 million, they think someone handed them a check for $50 million. It's not how that works. You got a percentage, maybe 25%, maybe 50%, maybe whatever it is. Taxes come out of that. If you live in California, that's 45% tax. Your manager is 7%, your lawyer's 3%. And if you're lucky enough to have an accountant, that's probably another 3 to 4%, right? So if you do the math, you're walking away with maybe 30%, 40% of your money, right? You know what I mean? So, and then the culture we live in and music and living in LA kind of perpetuates this idea that you need to be something bigger than what you are. It's just it's a monster that feeds itself. Yeah. You know, because people feel like they need to look or act or present themselves in a certain way, when like the music industry can be an extremely unfair racket, right? It can be extremely unfair. And some people don't want to admit it for the sake of maintaining relationships with their label, or maybe how they'll look to their fans and audience. But I think it's important to say, like, don't believe everything that you read or that's presented to you online, because it's designed to be seen or viewed in that way. Mm-hmm. Everything you see has gone through editing and bulletproofing and unredlining and all of these things. So by the time it gets to us in front of the screen or on print, it's not what it was.
That's fair. Yeah. How did you celebrate the weeks leading to the tour after moving, after you guys got signed with the tour?
Oh, I think I went to Cabo. Mm-hmm. I went to Cabo. I went and stayed at a resort in Cabo and went fishing and just fucking disappeared from the world. Went on a beach somewhere. And I think even that wasn't weeks. It was like you got a weekend, you got 3 days, and everybody just kind of like scattered like roaches to go do whatever it was they were gonna do. And then we got back on tour. We were on tour for months, you know, like months in a bus. They were not easy tours, but because we all like were so close and all were friends since we were kids, and we were used to living really close and cramped, it made it so great. Imagine like if you have brothers or if you have really, really close relatives, it was like that. It was like traveling with your family, like on a tour bus. It was sick.
Oh yeah. What was one of your favorite memories from tour?
All of it. It was really sick. It was miserable while I was on tour because touring is hard. It's not even like. But when I look back on it now, it's super fun. Like I got to skate in San Francisco, Portland. I grew up skating, so like I got to do so much shit that I thought awesome. I got to also my favorite movie as a kid was Richie Rich, and like you got to really live like that, like on tour. Like what do I want to do today? Whatever the fuck I want. We have an off day, whatever I want, and then some. It was fun.
Oh yeah.
A lot of fun.
On the other side of that, what could you say about the mental health in the music industry?
What can I say about it? It's not great. That's the reason why you hear a lot of music about drugs, or about people's sadness, or about people feeling empty. Like these people aren't lying to you; they aren't joking. Like most people are getting on the mic and they're not even writing down what they're saying. So they're just going stream of consciousness straight from the heart out of their mouth. And like if that's what they have to say, then that kind of tells you everything that you need to know. Like people are sad and they're alone and they feel kind of empty. And I'm not gonna pretend like I have all the answers for that, right? Like I went to a behavioral hospital, kind of like a rehab, mental facility, whatever. And I realized there that like not everyone has the privilege of being able to sit down and sort through their shit. Not everybody has the privilege of being able to take a few years off and figure out who they are, and what they're doing wrong, or why their relationships are happening the way they're happening. And to be able to do that is extremely rare. And I don't want to judge people under any circumstances because I'm 27 years old and I've made mistakes and I've gotten things wrong and I've gotten things right. You know what I mean? And like I assume that everyone else is trying their best too. So like it's not up to me to decide what you need to do or who you need to be. But if somebody's saying they feel pain or they're feeling fucked up, believe them and do the best you can to be there for them. And remember that like not everybody wants your fucking help right now. You know, like somebody told me a long time ago, like rock bottom looks different to everybody. It looks different to every single person. And like you might be looking at someone else and be like, damn, like they're at their lowest point, but it doesn't feel like that to them. And you gotta respect that. And as far as in the music industry, it can be really lonely being someone that people look at, no matter how small or how large. It can be extremely lonely because you feel like you have to be a certain person or you have to be a set of qualities or whatever, and it's just not the case. You don't have to be anything except human, and like you're not obligated to be the person you were 5 minutes ago, let alone 10 years ago, right? As long as you're trying your best and you do your best to be compassionate, understanding, free of harm of others, like these are things that no matter who you are, if you apply them to your life, things will probably be a little easier for you. You know, I can't speak for everyone in every circumstance, but that's what made me feel better.
Piggybacking kind of off of that, you speak about it a lot in the past music and even in some of the stuff that's coming up. So how inevitable or how hard does it seem, no matter the substance, for people in your position to be almost consumed by a lot of different substances? You know what I mean? So that's
it is impossible. Listen, if you make art or you make music, it's not because you feel like the world is complete. You feel like something's missing, or you're making new things. So I think the next time that you see an artist said something or did something that you maybe don't agree with, remember that these are human beings. Like you don't like most of the people you meet in day-to-day life. You don't like, you know what I mean? Like you don't love every single person that you meet. You find a way to like them, find a way to appreciate them, You find a way to tolerate them, but you don't love every single person you meet. It's not the case. When you're driving through traffic, when you're walking through Walmart, when you're doing all those little tedious little fucking things, when you see other people, what are your initial thoughts? Are you thinking this is a human being with compassion, or are you thinking get the fuck out of my way? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful that artists are that too. Except 100,000 people are in front of them every day. And now with the internet, it's 1 million people. It's 1 billion people. And it's like, how would you respond if the crowd at the mall, or the crowd at Walmart, or the crowd at the concert that's pushing too much and you feel uncomfortable? What if they were in your house? What if they were in your phone? What if every single thing that you had in life, whether it's good or bad, came from them? What if the home you live in is paid by those people? You'd be on edge, and you'd feel a lot of pressure to please those people, and it's extremely hard to please the crowd, and please the horde, you know? Emperors in Rome couldn't do it, you know? Kings and lords of Europe, Africa, and all over the world have fallen at the hands of their people. And now, just because someone does something with their phone or something with their computer, they get the same kind of attention, the same kind of power. Most people don't know who their congressman is. Most people don't know who their senators are, your alderman. Most people don't know what the fucking alderman is or what they do. Most people don't know what a constable is, but they know their favorite celebrity, right? And so like that's an extreme amount of pressure for people who, majority of them, have mental health issues. That's an extreme amount of pressure to place on those people. More than you place on the people who decide your day-to-day life and your laws and what you get to have access to and don't have access to. So it can be very difficult to avoid that pressure, but the way that you do it is to remind yourself that you are human and you have the right to be wrong. You have the right to change. You have the right to do better. You also have the right to just plain fuck up. And just remembering that, no matter what other people impose on you, you have the right to all of those things. You have the right to be wrong. You have the right to fuck up. It's what you do afterwards, you know? I'm a 27-year-old dude, and the hardest thing I've learned how to do is look in the mirror and say, well, whoops, I fucked up. Like, whoops, I'm gonna have to do better. I'm gonna have to, the next time it comes around, I've learned from this, and I'm gonna have to do better. It's not one of the hardest things to fucking do in life. It sounds so simple, but that a lot of shit starts to unravel when you can take pressure off of yourself. Like, I don't have to be anything. I don't have to be anything.
I think that's really well said. In an unreleased song, Puppy, titled Ready for War, on one of your final verses from the group, you ended your verse with.
God ain't give me a penny, I made $1 million. I got a thug for a father, so I took care of my mother. God threw me in fire, I walked out with my brothers. You know the shadow of death. I was born in the valley, but now I live in the valley. God gave me a house, God gave me depression. God gave us life, but we ain't know it was cursed. I was hurt as a child, you know I still deal with it. Now I'm a grown ass man with immature ass feelings. All I wanted was money, just to get it and spend it on strippers and weed. I skip on the liquor, I can't talk to my niggas, cause if I say it, it's real, and I ain't ready to face it. I've been flirting with Satan, I've been flirting with women that like to dance when they naked. And I throw all of my dollars, I throw all of my problems to the back of my throat with weed smoking can line up, and I'm ashamed of myself. About 3 days ago, I planned on killing myself, but I'm still here breathing, you know I'm still here screaming, fuck that shit, we signed for 15 million, and I almost missed it. I know that y'all niggas hear me.
Fall in if you feel it.
Tell me about that in that time frame.
Yeah, that was when I started going to therapy. I realized, like, oh, I have something wrong. My sister had passed away. My sister was going through some health complications, and it got worse, and she passed away. And we were working on Puppy, and I I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave work for that same reason that I felt like I needed to be making stuff. I needed to be making music because this was an opportunity that like I never thought I would have. I never thought that anything like that would happen. I was just making music. I was making songs. I didn't think that any of that would happen. And it all felt like undeserved. So I felt like I needed to work. And I'm not taking blame off of myself or misdirecting. I take responsibility for my choice. I didn't go see her. And I wrote that verse on the day she passed away. The day I found out she passed away. So I was just kind of venting and like getting everything out. And I was sitting on the back porch and I was crying while I was writing that. And then went back in the house that we had rented and recorded it. And it just worked. It just worked. It's still one of my favorite verses I wrote to this day. It's one of my favorites. When you look back on relationships or when you look back on your past or how things have happened for you, it all seems so clear. Like, oh, if I would have just turned left, if I would have just turned right, I would have ended up in the right place. But life doesn't really work like that. Like my grandfather used to tell me, the past is perfect. It's perfect because you can't change it. You know what I mean? So you have to learn to accept it. And so because life is complicated and because so much of what we want is intangible and so much of what we want doesn't come from our purest self, it just comes from what we desire. Like that's who we are. By nature, we covet, we want. And not all of those things are good for us, right? And so sometimes when we look back we say, I should have done this or I could have done that, it's not in our pure self. It's not from our best self. And we have to realize that like control is an illusion, and life and your emotions are very similar. It's like an ocean. It's constantly churning, constantly flowing. And imagine if you saw someone on the beach and they were running into the ocean trying to hold back the trying to hold back the bad waves and let the good waves hit the beach. They'd look fucking crazy. And eventually they'd sit their ass down on the beach and just let the waves roll in. And that's how life is. You can't stop bad thoughts. You can't stop bad things from happening. You just kind of have to sit back and let it flow in, right? No matter what it is and no matter how difficult it is. And if you can make it through another day, you'll be all right. You can only manage one day at a time. You can't. I have no fucking idea what's going to happen 6 months from now. I have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. I have no idea what's going to happen in the next hour. So like I have to focus on that, right? I have to focus on the next thing I'm getting to. And that's what I meant, is life can seem so simple with hindsight and with all of these things and our ego and what we felt like we should have had and what we could have did. But life just is so much more complicated than that. So much more complicated. And what's most important is nothing is beautiful because it lasts forever. You know what I mean? Like, no life would have the presence or the weight that it has if it weren't temporary. If it were something that were there forever, it wouldn't be no reason to admire it. It's there forever. And we're the same way. Nothing in our lives, no relationship, no time, everything is in a state of change. So learn to embrace that, learn to be okay with the state of change. That's what's beautiful about it, that nothing will ever be the same. So savor the moments that you have. And it all sounds so like mystical and spiritual, and you hear a lot of this shit on the internet, but it's extremely hard to apply it in your own life. It's difficult. I don't even do it all the time. There are still times where I'm worried about where the future is going to go, and who am I going to be, and who am I turning into, and am I doing the right thing? Because I'm 27 years old. Of course I'm fucking thinking that. I've only been on Earth for a flash in a pan. Of course I'm unsure. Of course you're unsure. Of course you're unsure. Of course. It hasn't been that much time yet, you know? You gotta scrape your knee a couple times before you figure out how to ride the bike, you know? And so, yeah, nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect except the past. Everything is temporary. Everything is in a state of change. And that's what's beautiful about it. The scariness of it, you know?
Mm-hmm. So what would you say to people that maybe haven't been as fortunate to get some therapy yet, whether they're younger or the same age as you, and are trying to figure out ways to, like you said, not stop those bad thoughts and like trying to figure out ways to just embrace it.
The best thing that's worked for me, and it works for a lot of people I know, is exercise. I know it sounds really fucking corny. I know it sounds so silly, but when you just take the time to take care of your physical body, whether it's just walking outside in the sun for 10 minutes or whatever the fuck it is, it's like, do something, move yourself. Like, it's going to at least make you feel better for a temporary time. And also, like, talk to people. You'd be surprised how much weight is lifted off of you when you can just talk to someone. You'd be really, really surprised. And also, you'll be surprised how many people don't judge you and how many people don't fucking care. They just don't fucking care. You can say whatever it is that you want with someone. And what's more important than how they receive it is that you got to say it and that you express yourself honestly and truly, right? And I say that to say, you're not always going to tell somebody what the fuck you got going on and they're going to have the right thing to say back. It happens all the time. It happens with my mom. It happens with anyone in my life, right? And it's going to happen to you too. It's going to happen to everybody. But it's really important to remember, like, yo, as long as I'm honest and I'm not saying something to hurt someone, not saying something with malicious intent, then I can fucking let it go. I said it and let it the fuck go.
So after leaving Brockhampton and your departure from Brockhampton, with conversations you had just kind of moving forward, is there like a conversation or something you had with someone that you like to shed light on that like really stuck to like move forward and better?
Saying, is there any moment I had with anyone from Brockhampton that like shed light or let me?
No, not with them. After leaving Brockhampton, is there a conversation you had with someone to move forward and better that you always shed light on? Does that help?
Yeah, you know what? It's actually fucking really funny. I went to church with my parents. I like went back to Texas. I went to church with my parents, and I walked out of the service, like for whatever reason I walked out. And there was a guy like walking through the hallway, and he stopped me, and we sat down, and he was like, "Yo, I could tell you got something heavy on you, like just come talk to me." And so we sat and talked for an hour, and he had gone to prison, and like he had gone through all these things. So he was like, "Yo, you don't have to tell me what it is that you got going on, but whatever you've done, I've probably done it or done worse. And like, let me tell you, like, everything's gonna be okay." That's all he fucking said. And like, I go back to that church all the time. I haven't seen it since. I have no idea who he was. And that was, I didn't realize it in the moment, but that was like the first step. Someone telling me that everything was gonna be okay. Somebody that wasn't my mom, or wasn't my dad, or wasn't somebody like that. Somebody to be like, whatever it is, it's gonna be alright. You'll figure it out. And I try to do that to other people now. I try to tell people, like, whatever it is, it's gonna be okay. It may not seem like it now. It may seem impossible. It may seem insurmountable, but it's gonna be alright. It's going to. Trust me.
Because you never know what that weight is on that.
Yeah.
Just to lift it up.
And it doesn't matter what it is. Whatever weight someone has on, whatever burden someone's dealing with, it doesn't necessarily matter. Most people just want to hear that everything's going to be okay, which is the truth.
Yeah.
It really is. Given enough time, and they say in AA and like when you go to the mental hospital, like we sit in our own shit because it's warm. And it's like we all do that. Like we sit in our shit because it's warm. Because like sometimes it feels good to wallow in whatever the fuck you got going on. And like if you can get up out of that and take a few steps, you'll instantly feel better.
Did Solo Islands or Brockhampton projects ever affect your personal rollout with the deal? After departure?
No. You mean like timing wise or like release conflicts?
I guess record deal wise.
No, not at all. No. Partners in Brockhampton didn't. No, not at all. It was, we got straight into solo contract negotiations. I think within 2 weeks, we were already figuring out what to do.
So after departure, what did that look like moving forward with them? Because you guys had just recently signed.
A lot of paperwork. You'd be surprised, dude. Like lawyers and accountants and all that. Like music is still corporate America. And like everybody's got a price, everyone's got a price tag. And at the end of the day, it's about bottom line, okay? So like, it may have seemed from the outside that like everything halted and stopped, but that's not how it would find it.
Fair enough. So, moving forward, what's Winston Wolf LLC?
That's my company where I release music and merchandise under.
Okay, so that's where you're.
Yeah, that's me.
Gotcha. And how'd that start?
How did Winston Wolf start? When I was signed, Ameer Vann, the artist, wasn't signed.
Mm-hmm.
I licensed my records and my license to a label for a certain amount. Right. And so what that means is that there has to be a company to license the product. I'm not directly liable for what is on paper. It's a corporation. You know what I mean? That's as much as I'm willing to explain about that. If that's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, no, Winston Wolf is my company where I release all my creative shit.
Gotcha. Is there anything particularly in the
Sway in the morning
interview that you missed that you'd like to touch on?
Anything on the Sway interview? Not really. And that was also so long ago, and not really. It was fun. Like, he asked some good questions. I answered them. I didn't really. After I left, I didn't think much about it. Didn't think much about it. I think probably one thing you might gather from me in this interview is like I don't try not to overthink. Like that's not good. I try not to overthink things. I just let it happen and move the fuck.
Well, real quick, so you mentioned your granddad. Was it him or someone else that just like pre-slipping like that to you growing up, or did you just always have that in you?
Oh man, I'm one of those people that I feel like I can learn from anybody and everybody. I listen to everything people have to say, no matter who it is. I try to take a little nugget from everyone. So no matter who you are, be careful what you say around me, because I'm probably going to remember it. You know what I mean? I'm probably going to steal it too. But yeah, it's my mom, my grandfather, everyone in my family had something to tell me. You know what I mean? And I just retained it. I don't know what it was. I didn't really get in trouble much as a kid either. You know what I mean? I didn't really start getting in trouble until I moved out of my house, because it just didn't make sense. My mom was cool. My dad was cool. Everybody was so nice that it didn't. Or not even nice. I guess I just had respect for them, or whatever it was. And it wasn't even like everyone was super duper nice and everything was all good. It definitely wasn't like that. But I don't know what it was. I've just always been like that. I try to do what's simple. I try to do what's easy, and realize at a young age it's way easier to do what's being asked of you than it is not to do it. Way easier. I realized when I started doing well in school that my parents left me alone. They let me do what I wanted. My mom was like, can't smoke me in the house to get a job. So when he got a job, simple, it's easy. You always want me to get a job? Okay, go to the place right next door, I'll go get a job. Simple.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Even in school, like, if I just do whatever here, I don't have to worry about what's going on at home. Simple, easy, simple. Everybody leaves me the fuck alone. Great, fantastic. I've just been that way since I was a kid. Don't know why.
So moving forward from after manual drops forward, what's kind of your schedule looking like as far as like, I guess, how you're expecting to drop music, and moving forward just with the Merlin tape and all that kind of. You dropped a few singles, but what was like the game plan just kind of moving through?
I have some videos and some singles that are already done. I don't know the timeline or anything. Like I said, I'm already just gonna start working or making more songs. I'm hoping that if we get some songs out in the next couple of weeks, or the next month or so, at least our first single in the video that we just shot.
That's off your solo project?
Yeah, I'm releasing one off my solo project, and then we're still working on a cartoon just because I like working. I like making stuff, so I just try to keep my mind occupied
Yeah.
and it keeps me feeling good. So I just try to make stuff as much as I can, no matter what it is. Try to make stuff. I pass it off to my manager, and they decide timeline, and they decide what's at least now that we don't have to play anymore, it's just my manager figuring out the timeline. I think the goal is to build up more buzz, get people to know who I am outside of the few songs I've done and one interview. I think that's really the goal, is to get people to know more before I drop a record.
And you mentioned the cartoon. How long has that been in the process, and what brought the cartoon up?
I've been working on a cartoon, I think without even knowing about it, probably my whole life. Probably. This idea we're making, it started off with me and my friend Marcel, and another one of my friends, Nick Weidenfeld. He was a consultant at Adult Swim, and he worked on a lot of shows that we watched as kids, the Boondocks and Rick and Morty and Moral World, and all these things. He helped develop these shows. So maybe a few months ago, I called him and was like, hey, I have this idea for a cartoon. Could you help me? And we had a meeting, and he talked to me and really gave me the foundation on how to build out this animated thing I'm making. And so we've been doing it ourselves. And I wanted to center it around music, because animation and comedy is in this place right now where it's like, or at least film and TV is in this place right now where it's like, if you aren't making the highest production possible and promise the highest return possible, people aren't really super excited about putting money down into what you're doing. When was the last time you saw a brand new cartoon on Cartoon Network? When was the last time you've seen anything like that wasn't a remake or a reboot of something else? So one of the advantages that I have, or the privileges that I have, is that I make music and people care. So if I can pin this animation to music, then it works a little better, So, and I've always loved cartoons. Like, animation of all kind is like one of my favorite mediums. So making animated things or making cartoons is something that I've always wanted to do, and we just tried it in the past few months, and it really worked. Really worked. I wish I could tell you more about it, but it's gonna be cool.
Very dope. And then for the album, can you tell us more about when you first met IDK and how the whole production of him getting involved with your first solo project, Not Sound, how'd that go?
Yeah, absolutely. We met through DM. I don't know who messaged who first, but fast forward a few months, he's finishing up his record and called me to come to the studio and work on stuff. So he played me some music, I played him some music, and we started working that day. And it was just worked ever since then. We kind of let managers and lawyers handle all that stuff, and then we just made music. And it turned into the record I played for you today. It just happened. It just really happened.
As far as the record goes, you said you made it in 12 days.
Yes.
Could you say on camera kind of what the process was with that and what led up to the 12 days?
Yes. So up to those 12 days was years of me trying to find producers. Like, not trying to find producers, but working with different producers is better. Like I said, I worked with Hit Boy, I worked with my friend Vincent, I worked with a guy named Christian Blue. I worked with a lot of different people, and so I had this collection of songs that were like 4-bar loops, maybe 1 or 2 verses, maybe a hook here or there, this or that, the other. But I needed to up the production value. I needed to really make the record sound bigger and more full and fleshed out. And I knew IDK from the records he had done before. I liked the production value on it. I liked what it was that he was doing. And I'm telling you, it was just a perfect storm. He was looking to executive produce records and wanted to try that, and I was looking for that. And it just worked. It just was one of those things where it was like a 1 in a million chance of just lightning struck. And that's how it's been for me since I met Ian in high school. Just lightning keep hitting.
So you mentioned you came with 4-bar loops and things of that nature. But when you're struggling with these producers, did you just find yourself being like, fuck it, I'm gonna try to make some little like simple stuff myself first, or how
No, the producers had those 4-bar loops.
Oh.
When I say 4-bar loops, I mean there was a sample V loop, there was a structure there, right? But it wasn't a full fleshed out record where you have first hook, bridge, verse, switch up, like where you had a dynamic record that moved and ebbed and flowed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I needed. That's what I really needed for this collection of songs. And so I had quite a few records then, I think maybe 8, 9, 10, something like that. And brought them to IDK and was like, hey, this is what I need. I need to make these records sound more dynamic. And he was like, I got you. And he played me some records, and there were songs there that either just had hooks, or maybe they just had a melody, or whatever. And I would write to it. I would apply the words. I'd sing the melody. I'd sing over the whatever the fuck it was. And that's how we made those records. It just happened. Boom, 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 boom. We did the initial 10 days, and then we did another 2, maybe like a month later, because of whatever.
Oh my God, Ronnie.
How I'm supposed to like your love don't like me. Wanna spend time with you, but it's way too pricey. Whoa.
About features, Maxso Kream's on the record.
Yes,
How'd you originally meet Maxso Kream and how that collaboration happened?
Maxso Kream tweeted my name in like 2019, 2018. Just my name. I wasn't on the internet anymore in any shape or form. I was living in the hills in Mulholland Drive, like completely detached from everybody. And someone called me and was like, hey, Maxso tweeted your name. We're signed to the same label. We're going to link you up with him. And so he came to the studio where I was working on it, laid down a different verse for another song that we had done a while ago. And then I had finished the record that you heard him on, and I was like, I need a verse. Like, I need somebody else on here. And that was the first person I thought of. And so it's the first one. And so he did it a long time ago. I think maybe around the pandemic before that first was recorded.
Well, I guess only a question I would have, I'm kind of interested still in like the production and what goes into realizing when you do and don't need help. So how was that process like for you?
I realized I needed help when I listened to the records, and it didn't feel right? Like I said, I'm super, super simple about that. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel full. Like a song should feel complete. It should feel satisfying, and it didn't feel that way. So I looked for help. You know what I mean? Like, I'm also really good at knowing what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, and like asking for help. I have no like problems being like, yeah, I can't do this. Can you help me do this? And because I'm always trying to learn from people, I usually end up learning a new skill anyway, working with someone who knows how to do some shit I don't know how to do. So yeah, that was it. I just asked for help. The record didn't feel right. You know what I mean? It didn't feel complete. And I needed help. I went to look for it. I knew I needed to find someone who had made complete records before and who had done so. I was going from making records with a team of people every single time, and all I have to worry about is strictly verses. Like, I'm not writing hooks, I'm not making beats, I'm not doing any of that. I'm not even worried about song structure, I'm just recording, right? Which gave me the chance to become a really visceral and strong writer. But I didn't know how to write hooks. I didn't know where to place production value in songs, as in like where to add and where to take things away. I was only going by gut feelings, and without experience or without someone there to guide you or help you, that can be detrimental, right? You'll end up just making shit and never actually completing something. So I knew I needed that. For whatever reason, I just knew I did. And I went and looked for it and found IDK. Like I said, my life has been a series of lightning strikes. I have no fucking idea how it happened or why it happened. It just did. It did.
Rewinding a little bit in your timeline, the Merlin tape, how'd that come to be?
I was working on some records with Kevin. I was working on some records with Kevin, just randomly one day. And I don't know what made me text Williams. I think I texted him or something like that. Something simple was like, yo, you want to come to the studio? You want to work on some things? And we made like 2 songs the first day. They were good. They felt really good.
And what time frame was this? Were y'all on speaking terms when you first reached back out?
Yeah, we talked like more or less. There's no one I'm like, don't talk to or wouldn't talk to. It was right before the 2 Brockhampton albums came out. It was right before Coachella. Right before Coachella.
So like at the end towards that last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we were working on that stuff. I did the records with Merlin. We did 1 or 2 and they came together really quick. We did it with Connie.
Mm-hmm.
They came together so fast that it was like, yo, we should do more. And before I knew it, we had, a bunch of songs and we were like, this should be a full thing.
And were some songs reworked and brought back to life? Because I feel like I remember on Instagram, a few of the songs from the Merlin tape had been teased as a solo project. So were there songs from, I guess, prior that you brought back to life? Or is this all maybe
I think
a
the
single
Swisher
thing?
record is what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Swisher was already a finished record.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think it was finished. I think it had the open verse. So maybe it was finished. And maybe he had written all of it. But when I came to the session, he was like, you gotta put a verse on there. And I did. And it sounded just extremely special. It just sounded really, really good. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we should just do a whole tape like this. Just decided between the 3 of us that we should just do the whole tape like that. Or,
Oh yeah, and then you guys did an LA show. So on Halloween, can you tell me about the night in Los Angeles y'all had?
oh yeah, it was fun. We hadn't performed together forever and so long, so it was a lot of fun, like rehearsing together and doing the show together. It was a great show. I really liked the way that those records felt live. I love the way that the crowd responded to them. It was a good night. It was fantastic. The show was sick.
Coming back into this now that you're now independent, what can everybody be expecting of these new projects? You being out on tour, the show coming out, kind of. In the last few questions we have, kind of what's to see in the future?
Well, I'm not a great planner, to be completely honest. I don't know if you've gotten that from all of my responses. I don't really plan things or like think about anything. I just try to do whatever feels cool, whatever the next thing that feels cool is. So I wanted to experiment with my voice more. Like I've been playing with melody and like singing and just doing silly shit. I want to create songs with more levity. I want to make songs that like feel sillier and happier, as opposed to being known for like these dark records. I want to just make things that seem a little brighter. People should definitely expect me to be talking more and just being able to expecting to see more of me. That's really it. I'm just gonna keep making songs and hopefully people will show up.
Well, you said we don't have a timeline expected yet.
Well, no. In the next month, you guys will be getting a single and a video.
Okay.
Yeah. So next month, you guys will get a single and a video. Song and a video.
All right, there we go. We'll definitely be following up during the shows.
Yeah.
Get some videos and give everyone else the opportunity to check it out. But thank you so much for speaking and speaking.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
Suicide made them notice, pouring potion in the ocean. Got $1 billion, I crash. Haven't really living fast. Put the money on the dash. Tryna live a better way. Money that I gotta make. Problems that I gotta face. Bitches hopping on my stage. Selling clothes and they ain't cheap. It's cold, so I keep the heat.